Okay, welcome to the stream, everyone. We are going to get this party started a bit quicker than normal because we actually have 6 people, and with treasure, that equates to a fair amount of games in terms of like time. So yeah, let's get this party started. We're gonna shuffle those seeds up. So that's one shuffle, two shuffle. I always shuffle twice, so that way no one can accuse me of trying to stack the bracket. But we're gonna get this party started. Start the tournament, and yeah, I'll put this here. Sending that to my Discord server. If you want to play in any locals for yourself, head on over there. We hold them every week. And yeah, they're always fun. So we got the bracket here. And it seems like 2 people get buys. You know, that's what happens when you have 6. But I think it's fine to have 6 for treasure again. It's a fair amount of games, and treasure does take some time. So yeah, it's just like it's probably best just to start now. And even if we get 2 buys, it should still be fun. But we got Wagmuff versus Jimbob first, and then Danny Droid versus Soul Emerald 69. All frequent players in these locals. I think Otizen is new, so welcome to the locals, Otizen. And yeah, they got a buy as well, so they start off with a bit of a leg up. But in treasure format, you know, I would say the treasure format is a relatively skillful format. Yes, the hand rips are around now, but I think the hand rips are a bit more fair in this format than they are in some other formats. So I don't think they like make or break the game. I think that treasure format's largely just about like grinding out your opponent and winning that way. There are some decks that buck that mold. You know, like I'd say, burn decks can go against that trend. There are some combo decks as well. Especially using like Catapult Turtle and Recruiters and things like that. They can also buck that trend, which are pretty cool. But generally, the games are more grindy and control-y, you know. But that's sort of the characteristic of the early DM era, where they are just kind of like that a lot of the time, which is very different from the current format that I'm going to be covering on the channel. And after this stream wraps up, oh, I need to mute the sound. I always forget to do that. But after the stream wraps up, I will be posting a cat format guide. So yeah, that's the format that I'm in now on the channel, and that format is completely different. That format's all about killing your opponent as fast as possible, and it's fun in its own way. I think that all these formats can be fun for different types of people. Just what you prefer. You know, do you prefer a slower game? Do you prefer a faster game? And I think there's a format for Yu-Gi-Oh out there for every type of player. And that's the fun of going through all these formats. You know, you get to see all the different types of formats out there. And you see also that every era sort of has formats that are fast and slow. Obviously, like, you know, it's all relative, right? So, like, even the slowest format in the modern era is probably going to be faster than something from, like, well, actually, I don't even know if that's true because the DM era does have some. It's probably going to be faster than your average DM era format. Although near the end of the DM era, when you get to like chaos format, like those games go pretty quick, but they still last a couple turns. But yeah, it's just like the game oscillates in terms of how long the games last and how grindy they are. And every era has different formats that fulfill one or the other. So it's kind of nice because no matter what period of the game you prefer, no matter what you're nostalgic for, you can get multiple types of play. And also you can find similar formats in a variety of eras, you know. So I think that it is pretty fun overall. And it's just great going through the game's history. So we had Comfy on the Giant Soldier of Stone, which is very interesting there. It shows that they probably didn't want Danny to set up like a big defense here. So it seems like they're trying to go a little bit aggressive potentially. And it looks like the hand is Painful, Tomato, and Cannon. Now the question is, what do you take if you're Danny? I think Painful is the correct choice there. You've got Trap Holes to deal with the Tomato and the Cannon Soldier. So you don't really need to worry about that. The thing is that Soul knows the entire hand that Danny has. They know it's double Trap Hole and a Fissure. So they can probably have the read that that is 2 Trap Holes set there to play around MST. But, you know, you can play into that a bit. And you know that Danny didn't have any monsters right now for follow-up. So that also is kind of nice. And Sangan there, you don't want to Trap Hole a Sangan. So, yeah, that's going to be pretty good there. And Soul might go and bait out, like, one of those Trap Holes set. Or he might just attack in for 1,000. Looks like they're going to do that. And that's 1,000 damage in. And 1,000 damage at a time, it does get there. Setting probably the Tomato and then setting in back row. So that back row could be another Trap Hole, could be something else. Probably not Heavy Storm, so you don't need to worry about that, because if it was Heavy Storm, they probably would have fired that, just brought out something else, tacked in for a bunch. And it looks like Danny's going to set as well. Now, that could just be a defensive monster like a Giant Soldier of Stone, and they're trying to play around something like Trap Hole. It could be something like a Man-Eater Bug, although Man-Eater Bug, it does see play in these decks because tomatoes and stuff are around, but it's not as popular as it once was in like Yugi Kaiba format, right? It kind of, was very played in Yugi Kaiba. Play went down in Critter, where you have the Sangins and Witch dominating, and now the tomatoes around, it's sort of increased in play a little bit, although it's still not like the most played card in the world. But we'll see how Soul deals with this set monster. Do they have a way to stop that? There's no Nobleman of Crossout in this format that comes out in the next set. So what will they be able to do here is the question. Yeah. Looks like we have some issues here. Yeah, it looks like one of the other games had an issue, so yeah, so we're gonna, I think we can't wait that long with how slow these are. Yeah, so luckily, these are unranked. These are just for like fun stuff. So we'll just have Jim Bob and Otizen go there. But unfortunately, Wagamuffin was in the middle of another game. So yeah, interesting stuff. So they baited out multiple of the trap holes there that turn. So sorry for going to a different tab when things were very exciting there, but I just had to deal with some organizational stuff. So yeah, now we have Jim Bob versus Otizen. And then we'll get a search here after the Mechanical Chaser attacks over it. You can also probably have the read that the set is not a trap hole potentially, although it's unclear. But yeah, Sangan searched out, I think, a Witch I saw, but this is a pretty decent spot for, honestly, for both players. It really depends on what Soul has to out the Chaser. But I think this should hopefully be fine. Okay, Mechanical Chaser attacking into the set. And that will be hit with a Mirror Force. Okay, so that will deal with the mech. But it looks like Danny has another monster to set there, so they are not defenseless. Okay, let's see here. Soul checking their opponent's graveyard, seeing what's been used up. They know they don't have to worry about many trap holes because 2 trap holes are gone, so there is 1 left. There's no back row anyways there, so that doesn't really matter. They might be thinking like, okay, is it a tomato? Is it a Giant Soldier of Stone? What is it? Oh, or they're looking for something to Reborn here. So they're going to do Reborn, bring back their own tomato. I think that makes sense. And they're going to flip up a Witch here as well, attacking into the set with the tomato, not the Witch. I think you could have actually, there's an argument for attacking in with the Witch in case it's tomato, but it looks like that was the correct choice overall because that is a Witch there. And so that will be able to get over the Witch without bringing out another monster to Danny's board, and then the Witch will be able to attack in for 11. That's pretty good overall, although Danny will be able to search out like a Mechanical Chaser if they want to go for that. I think they probably have the read that the set card there is not a trap hole, so they can feel pretty safe in that. And now Witch will attack in for 11 and poke there. But, yeah. See, tomato coming down, and that is indeed not going to be trap hold. Now, the question is, this debate always comes up when we have this sort of format. Which art of tomato do you prefer, the TCG or the OCG? I like the TCG art. I think it's just a bit trippier and a bit more threatening, as opposed to just like a jack-o'-lantern with eyes. This thing is like, it's got pointy teeth, it's got a menacing tongue, and the background. Ooh, the background goes hard. So I do like the TCG art a little bit better than the OCG, but I think they're both good. you can prefer one or the other. Either one should be fine. But yeah, Soul thinking about what to search out here. I think the move might be like just a Mech Chaser. But I don't know. Okay, Fisher's going to be pretty good there, getting rid of Soul's Tomato. And Mech Chaser will come down, so Mech Chaser will be able to beat over that Tomato, but, you know, Danny will be able to bring out another thing there. So it's not ideal for Soul. No. What's going to happen now? What are they bringing out? They could just bring out another Tomato. That would be their last Tomato, though. They could bring out a Sangan or Witch. Sangan and Witch both had 2 copies in this format, just like in a Critter format. So the question is, what are they going to search? I do find the formats where Sangan and Witch are at 2 very interesting. They make for very grindy games because you just keep searching out things. Oh, I lost connection. Okay, so I guess they weren't taking that long to search. It was just the connection being bad to DB. So let's dive into that one again. And okay, looks like they brought out a Witch. They had a Fisher for the Mech Chaser, and we're able to attack in for 11. Mother Grizzly coming down here. This is a deck that Soul has sort of like pioneered in this format, where you play Grizzlies as well as Tomatoes, having more access to more things. And then the Grizzlies can also go into a Catapult Turtle to deal a little bit more damage at the end of the game. So very interesting deck. Danny is going to search out a Maneater Bug, which can pop the Grizzly. So it's not like an ideal situation for Soul to be in. Again, there's no Nobleman of Crossout. There are Raigeki. There is Change of Heart. So those can both deal with a set monster, but if you don't have those, it can be a bit tricky here. So there are ways to attack into it, though, if you know that's a bug or have the strong read it's a bug. So, like, you can bring out a, like, Sangan or Witch in addition to this and try and, like, bait out the bug on the Grizzly and leave the Sangan or Witch up and get in for a little bit of extra damage. And it looks like that is indeed what they're going to do. They're going to bring out the Witch, attack in with the Grizzly. So now Danny has a choice, like, do I protect my life points? Do I pop the Grizzly? What do I do here? I think popping the Grizzly is the correct choice, and they do indeed go for that. Because I think generally Advantage is a little bit better than life points, and leaving the Grizzly on field while popping the Witch. First of all, Witch gets the search, and second of all, you still have to deal with the Grizzly somehow. So I do think that was the right choice, although Danny's in a bit of a tough spot. They're at 30, 50 life points. That is pretty low, especially for the deck that Soul's playing, where you have access to Catapult Turtle and Last Wills and all that stuff. So it's a bit of a tricky spot for them. But the game is still relatively even over the course of this, you know. It's 47-50 to 30-50, so things have been going back and forth here. They've been trading life points. They've been trading resources. So it has been a pretty interesting grind session to watch. Soul's thinking. They're viewing their graveyard again. Reborn's gone, though, so they can't bring back anything with that. Here's another question. Do you prefer the OCG art of Reborn or the TCG art? I prefer the TCG art. It's what I grew up with. But I do think the OCG art has a bit more interesting. Oh, Banisher of the Light. Okay, that's a very, very good card for Danny to have here. It both walls off the Grizzly and also makes makes Soul's board a lot less threatening, because if you attack into the Witch or the Grizzly, those will not get their effects off. So very, very good stuff for Danny here. Now the question is, do they have aggressive pressure to actually beat into the Grizzly or the Witch? And that's still an open question. You know, they've gone through one Mech Chaser. They might have more. They've gone through double Witch. They've gone through double Tomato. And it looks like they've got a Sangan here that they're bringing out. That's very interesting. I wonder why. Okay, they got Snatch. They're going to Snatch Steal the Grizzly, attack over the Witch, and then attack in with the Sangan. Okay, I get that. That makes sense. You have to read that the set is probably not MST or something, I assume. So the question is, what is it? Soul's thinking here about what to do here. So that means that this background might be something to respond to this. So it could be like Rush Recklessly. That's a card that people sometimes play in this format that could potentially come up here. If it is Rush Recklessly, it might be good to play it because you clear the Grizzly, and then you can just attack it in the Sangan next turn. So Woboku, okay, that's also a card that people play. So yeah, Woboku keeping that Witch alive. And this might imply that there is an MST to pop the Snatch. But in that case, I don't think you needed to keep the Witch alive. So there might be some other reason for this. Also, Woboku should be gone here. Woboku should be banished because of the Banisher, but no one plays Mask of Darkness, so I don't think it will matter here. But it's just good to keep in mind that Banisher banishes anything, not just monsters. So yeah, but monster to where it like really matters. Witch attacking into the Sangan, so getting rid of that. And that'll cost Danny another 100 life. Now the thing about Snatch Steal is that, you know, it will keep giving Soul life. So if you can't actually get more than 1,000 life points on the field each turn to poke into Soul, then you are doing a losing proposition. And no MS or one MST has been used, but there's still 2 MSTs left in deck. There's a Heavy Storm or 2 left in deck probably. So, you know, it's a matter of time until Soul does clear that Snatch and then gets back their Grizzly. So it's a bit of an awkward spot for Danny to be in. I think they had to do what they did, but the Woboku was, I think, a good play ultimately. So, question is, does Soul have another monster here? I feel like if they got another well, they might be thinking about like, okay, what if Danny has like Raigeki or something, or I don't know, or maybe Soul has Dark Hole that they're debating about, you know, playing around with. But I feel like they've got Dark Hole. You just let the Grizzly attack into the Witch. Maybe, you know, Danny also attacks him with something else. But you just let that go through and then Dark Hole the following turn because you've got enough life points to basically survive most things. Question is, what's Danny going to do here? They're going to go for a duo. Oh my word. That is brutal. Hitting a Sangan and a Last Will. So both those kind of dead in the face of Grizzly Banisher. And now leaving Soul in top deck mode. So that is a bit scary here for Soul. And there are things that could potentially do it, but it's kind of a rough spot. Now they do gain 1,000 life points here. Yep, there they go. They gained 1,000. But it looks like that card in hand is not going to do much. So they're just going to pass back to Danny. And now Danny can start poking in. But again, they kind of need to get more damage on the board to actually make a chip in to Soul's life points here. But it looks like they're just going to attack in with the Grizzly, poking for 14, and then pass back to Soul. So Soul gains back 1,000 on that. So they're just losing 400 a turn. So it's not really the most effective way of killing Soul, but it does at least buy some time here. And Danny was able to really mess up what Soul had there with the duo. And that Banisher is just completely shutting off a lot of what Soul wants to be doing. And that's why Banisher is strong in this format. Yes, it can backfire on you if you play it a bit riskily, right? Like if you've got your own Sangans and Witches, you won't get those searches. But it can be a really powerful card that your opponent might not be expecting that just, you know, shuts off what they're trying to do. Because a big core of this format is sort of getting those searches off Sangan, Witch, Tomato, etc., and sort of maintaining that field presence. And Banisher just kind of shuts that all off and basically reverts Sangan, Witch, etc., into just weak monsters that don't really do anything. So I think this is a very, very good showing for Banisher here. And this kind of single-handedly, you know, brought Danny back into the game. And we'll have to see if Danny's able to take this one home with what they've got here. But again, you know, Raigeki, Dark Hole, those do exist in this format. Even like an MST or a Heavy, it could be good here because Soul can take back the Grizzly, crash into the Tomato, banish both, and then still have their normal summoner set left. So it is a, I think, pretty good spot for Soul if they can draw into a variety of things here. But it's just a matter of drawing into those things, right? So it's a bit tricky. We'll have to see exactly what they do. Another neat play that they could potentially set up if they've got a variety of things in hand is if they've got like Change of Heart and a monster above 1,400 attack, they could take control of the Banisher, crash that into one of the monsters, and then beat over the Grizzly as well, which would be kind of funny. But that's kind of like, you need a lot of things to go well there, and they probably would have done something with that already if they had those pieces. Mech Changer coming down, Change of Heart comes down as well, so that will be the end of game 1. Wow, yeah, that's going to do it there. Very, very big comeback from Danny. But again, showing the power of Banisher of the Light. Very powerful card. So, diving into Jim Bob versus Otyson, it seems like Jim Bob won game 1. We're on to game 2 here. Seems like Banisher is in Otyson possession as well, along with Tribute to the Dooms. Very interesting tech card that doesn't often see like a ton of play here, but when it does come up, it can be decent. The thing is that you generally go negative on Tribute to the Doom. So like basically you're losing 2 cards to deal with 1. And if you hit like a tomato or something, that's like, it can be a good trade, but it is kind of awkward because if you can't recover from that, or if you use it on a set monster and that monster turns out to be Witch or Sangan, then it could be a bit worse. But very cool to see Otizen experimenting with the Tributes to the Doomed. Mech Chaser coming down here, attacking into the Mech Chaser there, but unfortunately a Mirror Force will stop that play. Otizen does get a search off the Witch, but they've gone through a lot of their deck. They've gone through 2 Witches, 1 Sangan, so that could be good, but it could also be kind of rough. They're going to go for Reborn here, though. Viewing their graveyard, bring back that Banish of the Light there, and just leaving that as a wall. That's kind of annoying for Jim Bob to deal with. And at this point, it's kind of good that Otizen's gone through so many Sangans and Witches, because that means that Banisher will be less threatening for them than it is for Jim Bob here. So, very interesting stuff there. Although we do see the Jim Bob is on the Rush Recklessly's. So Rush Recklessly can allow you to get over the Banisher, and there is another Rush Recklessly, speaking of. So that tomato will attack over the Banisher. Mech Chaser is going to attack in as well for 1850. And Jim Bob going to pass back to Otizen here. So Otizen's going to set 1. And maybe leave it at that. I don't know. But they're going to set another as well and pass back. Jim Bob MSTing that back row in case like a mirror or something like that. It was a trap hole. And now they're going to attack into the set with the Mechanical Chaser, hitting a Giant Germ. So that's a bit of a interesting tech card. Otizen might be on a bit of a burn strategy, although I don't see many other burn cards here. But yeah, so they're going to attack in over those Germs. Take 1,000 damage from that. So they are below Otizen now, but they are still in a better spot in terms of field presence, which is important in this format, as I mentioned earlier. So Otizen's going to give a bit of a thonk here, a bit of a thinky face, and they're going to switch that Germ to defense, set 1, and probably pass. Oh no, set another as well, pass back. Okay, what will Jim Bob do here? I think what you want to do is probably attack into the set first, and then attack into the Germ in case it's like Banisher. And it looks like it's going to be Tomato instead, but this still gives you options, right? If they bring in another Tomato, you can trash your Tomato into that Tomato and try and get something going, and it looks like they will indeed get something going there. Otizen out of Tomatoes there. Jim Bob out of Tomatoes as well, but you're still bringing out that Witch of the Black Forest. You can attack into the Germ or the Sangan. It looks like they're going to attack into the Germ just to prevent Otizen from having a good play on the following turn. You don't need to worry about Otizen searching out a monster, setting that monster, doing something with it, right? So, yeah, I think that was the correct play. Duo here going to be pretty big, but that also implies, I mean, maybe they're not afraid of what Jim Bob searches out. But yeah, pretty big duo, ripping out the entire hand. And now it's just 2 cards to 2 cards. Of course, Jim Bob is going to be drawing here. Oof, that is a rough play, attacking into that Witch, taking the 100, and then probably searching out like a Banisher or a Giant Soldier. It looks like it will be the Banisher. Main 2 setting that Banisher, setting a back row and passing back. Jim Bob in top deck mode, but they know exactly that that is the Banisher, so they might not want to even attack into it. Looks like they're going to set 1 and probably just pass. Because I feel like if you look at the grave, right, if you look at Otizen's grave, they've gone through pretty much all the, monsters that you would care about, like, getting rid of with Banisher. So really, this only negatively impacts Jim Bob if they flip up the Banisher now without being able to deal with it. So MST on the back row hitting a Woboku, so pretty good MST there. And Otizen going to set another pass. Now, again, this is sort of a situation where, like, do you flip the Banisher first? I think you don't because, and it looks like the bug is going to pop. The Mech Chaser makes sense. But yeah, you don't do that because, like, if you had flipped up the Banisher first, then the bug could have popped the Witch, and then you wouldn't have gotten a search. So I think that was the smart play from Jim Bob. Although Otizen is going to flip up that Banisher now, go for a Mech Chaser. That's going to get Trap Hold, though. So, yeah, I think that was a mistake on Otizen's part. I think they should have summoned out the Mech Chaser first, then flipped up the Banisher. Because now they are vulnerable, right? That Banisher's in attack mode. Of course, they could have like a Mirror Force or something to protect it. So maybe they don't want to switch both the Sangan and the Witch to attack. But either way, you probably don't want to be forced to use the Mirror Force here, right? And it looks like they're just going to let the Banisher go. So I think this was a bit of a misplay from Otizen. But again, I always try and point out these misplays, not because I'm trying to, say the player's bad or anything like that, but just because I'm doing commentary on the outside looking in, trying to sort of just see what the best play might be from my own knowledge of the format. And these formats are tough. It's tough to also be playing in a locals and having a lot of different things to consider. So especially when it comes down to something as small as like the ordering of what you're doing in your play, it can be a bit tough to keep track of. So, but yeah, a bit of a rough play there. And yeah, I think Jim Bob sort of has reclaimed this game. Of course, Tyson could potentially draw into. Um, that was interesting. I guess like you don't want to reveal that the bug was what is in hand, because then that shows that it's not a bug on field. So that was a bit of a. I think what Jim Bob should have done is add back the set card to hand, reveal it, and then set again. Because then it's just a procedural thing there, honestly. But yeah, hitting the Mech Chaser there, leaving them with a man-eater bug. Because like if that was a potential bug set, then they could have taken the bug, and that would have been a much riskier proposition to take. But I think this is probably going to be over pretty soon, though, because, I mean, unless Jibop doesn't have another Mech Chaser, but no, they do. So they can just search out Mech Chaser here, bring out Mech Chaser, crash into their Mech Chaser if they want to. And then, okay, they're going to go for Cannon Soldier instead. I guess they want to set the bug first and then use Cannon Soldier as a bit of an aggressive option. That also makes some sense. I don't hate that. Yeah, because bug is a good way to out the Mech Chaser, and then you still have your Cannon Soldier for after that. You'll probably still have that Moth in defense. So yeah, I think Mech Chaser might be better at this point. I don't know. It's tough when you get down to this, but like the worst case scenario is if you set the bug and then Otyzen uses like Raigeki and like blows up the bug, right? And then you don't have another way to out the Mech Chaser because you searched out Cannon Soldier. So unless they've got a way to win here. Oh, they got Rush Recklessly. Okay, that I guess that was the draw, but it did indeed work. And so that will be, I believe, 250 and then plus 300 damage here. And then you contribute the Moth. I think they're slightly off in terms of the life points. They should be at 1900, I believe. I believe they should be at 1900. Yeah. They're at 1900. Now the question is, do you just tribute the Moth? Do you tribute the Cannon Soldiers? Well, you don't need to worry about a tomato off the top, so that's something. Yeah, it looks like they're going to tribute off the Moth there. Deal 500 damage, and then pass back. So they're leaving the Soldier. I think that's fine. Yeah, Forceful Sentry is the last card, and that will be the end of the game there. So very GG. I think it could have potentially turned out differently if different things had been played in different orders, but Jim Bob will indeed take that one. Moving on to the finals. And let's dive into Danny versus Soul here at the other end of the bracket. So whoever wins this will have to go on a bit of a gauntlet. But yeah, it seems like we've had another grinder here. This is still game 2. But again, these games go quick. It looks like this game might be ending soon, though. Raigeki in the set. And now you've got enough damage to kill here. So that will indeed be the end of the game unless Danny has a Kuriboh here. But that's not really the most likely thing in the world because Kuriboh is not really that good of a card in this format. There aren't really many OTKs that you need to worry about. But yeah, that will be everything attacking in. And then you can tribute off and kill. So and you can even tribute off and kill without tributing the Witch if you were worried about like giving your opponent slightly more information on the Witch search at the end of the game there. But yeah, that'll just be all she wrote. So going on to game 3, very interesting games here. Now, the interesting thing about Treasure, or one of the interesting things, is like in siding. Siding is very weird because unless you're up against like a burn deck, maybe you have more spell and trap removal for that. But frankly, it's like if you're going up against the sort of like quote unquote good stuff deck of a format, or just decks that are adjacent to that, it's kind of tough to know what to side. Oftentimes you side based on whether you're going first or second. Like maybe you don't play all the hand rips if you're going second or something, so that way you don't brick on them later. But honestly, this format's grindy enough that like the hand rips are not bad to draw later on, unless you're like super late game. But even like mid game, the hand rips are better to draw here than in other formats because Sangan and Witch are most likely to be in play and like getting those searches constantly. Your opponent will likely always have cards in hand, so the hand rips will get some value. But yes, the last set for Treasure was MRL. Yep. So yeah. And this format's kind of interesting because I basically date it on October 1st because that's when the ban list comes out for it. But Tournament Pack 2 also comes out on October 1st, which is kind of interesting. And so some people say, oh, well, Tournament Pack 2 should be included in this format as well. But my reasoning is that Tournament Pack 2 had to be one at an event. So there had to have been an event that played by the October list, but did not have access to the cards from Tournament Pack 2 because that was the prize for the event. So that's sort of like how we draw the line for this format. So that's why MRL is the last set for it. But people have debated that, and we do have another format called Jar format, which is basically this, but plus the cards for Tournament Pack 2. I will say that format is a lot, well, people can have different opinions on it, right? I always say that different stroke for different folks, like two people can look at a format, one person can love it, one person could hate it. But generally, I think Jar format is a bit less interesting because it basically, like Morphing Jar being at 3 copies, just centralizes the format so much because Mill becomes really, really powerful, but Burn counteracts Mill very strongly. And so Burn kind of becomes the best deck because Mill is so strong, and Mill kind of deals with the general good stuff deck pretty well. So you just have like Burn as the top dog because it's kind of a triangle, but Burn can win against regular, decks. But regular decks can't really win as much against Mill, and Burn can win against Mill pretty easily because Minar is a card that you put in the side deck, which is just a card that says this card's discarded to deal 1,000 damage to your opponent, basically. And so if Mill is trying to mill you out by using multiple Morphing Jars and things like that, then it kind of goes badly for Mill. But it's kind of an interesting dynamic in its own right. So some people do prefer that, but I do actually like Treasure a little bit more. I think there's more things that you can do. I think the games that you play are a bit more entertaining. I think they're a bit more fun and a bit more interesting as well. I just like the grind, I'm a big fan of grindier formats, and I think Treasure on its own is a pretty grindy format. Not quite as grindy as Critter, in my opinion. But there's like slightly more things you can do than in Critter. So it's kind of a trade-off. Some people like Critter a lot, but they hate Treasure because they don't like the hand rips being in the format. But I do think the hand rips are a bit balanced, and they do enable other decks to sort of arise. So I don't know. I think Treasure's fun. I think it's sort of it's a bit of a gem, which is kind of funny given its name. It's kind of a hidden gem that not many people know about. In fact, it wasn't even played until we actually played it on the channel and, got enough of a community around it to actually support tournaments and get it on Format Library. But, it's still one that is not quite as played as much of a lot of others. I'd say that, like, if you divvy up the DM era into these sort of sub eras where the formats feel a bit similar, I'd say the first sort of sub era is like, the first 4 formats, Yugi, Kaiba, Critter, Treasure, and Imperial. Those feel very similar. And I think Critter is generally what people lean to among those. But Vazira, sorry if I mispronounced that, 92, said, any format's better than 2025 Solitaire. Yu-Gi-Oh! Hat is my favorite. I do like Hat. I've played a bit of Hat. I think it's a fun format. And I will be getting to it eventually on the channel. It's just, I go like a format at a time. And I generally try and spend like a month covering each format when I can. I've been a bit busier lately just because of like IRL stuff. I'm working a full-time job and doing a master's program at the same time, which leaves less time for the channel as I would like. But I should have more time relatively soon because the first term of my master's is wrapping up. So but we'll be exploring Cat for the rest of this month. And then next month will be Lightsworn format, which a lot of people really enjoy as sort of an alternative to Edison. So that'll be kind of cool to see. I'm curious to see how people like Lightsworn, what that format looks like. But it'll be a little bit of time until we get to Hat because I have to go through basically the entirety of the Zexal era to get there. And I will be doing that, but it might be a bit. So if you can bear with me till then, I will be covering Hat eventually. And I'm looking forward to it because the games I've played of Hat, I've really enjoyed. Hayasube coming down here. Very interesting card. Didn't see much play outside of this deck, but the main reason you play it is a 1500 monster that you can bring out off Grizzly, so it can win some Recruiter Wars. Of course, the Mechanical Chaser can attack into it here. Or can it? Did it already attack, or did it not? I don't have the log on hand right now, but might have been a bit of a mistake from Soul here if the Mech Chaser did not attack. Okay, it looks like Danny might have attacked with Mecha already. Yeah, so I guess it was Mecha attack Grizzly, and then yeah, so it would just be Tomato as an option to attack it. I doubt that Danny's playing Komori Dragon. That's the 1500 Dark that you'd search out most of the time, I believe. I don't think there's another 1500 Dark in the format. Could be wrong, but I think that's the only one. And so that would be what you'd search out to counteract this, but that's kind of a lossy play here. You kind of just want to attack into the Witch with the Tomato if you want to attack in at all. You might not even do that because then potentially Soul Searches out like Mech Chaser attacks into the Mechanical Chaser, and then you don't have a way to deal with the Hayasube. But yeah, it looks like they are going to attack, so they might have protection for the Mech Chaser. They could have a Mirror Force in the macro. They could have a Trap Hole. They could have a variety of things. It looks like they're going to set another Not Fearing Heavy Storm, which, to be fair, I don't know if we've seen Heavy Storm in this match yet. So it looks like Sangan is going to come down. That's going to be okay. And in attack mode, which is a bit scary for Danny. Raigeki coming down. That's going to be brutal here, clearing away both the Tomato and the Mech Chaser. And now you can attack in. If it's Mirror Force, you get not the worst trade because you get a Sangan search. It looks like it is going to be Mirror Force, so the Hayasube is gone. But you get that Sangan search, so you get to sort of search out, prepare for what's coming next. And I believe there is another Mech Chaser known about in hand from the Comfy earlier. But, you know, you might want to get a thing to deal with that, like maybe a Man-Eater Bug if you've got that. Or maybe you've got other ways to deal with the Mech Chaser in hand. But I think this was a good play from both players here. And let's see what happens here. So we'll have to think about exactly what they want to search out here. They're going to search out just another Witch. So this is kind of keeping their cards close to their chest in case they do have a way to out the Chaser. But also just Witch is another great searcher. So you can search out even a Mechanical Chaser if you want to just get rid of it by crashing. Look at another Tomato's going to come down. That's going to get Trap Hold. So there goes that. But, you know, you're baiting out the removal that Soul might have for the Mech Chaser. So I think that makes sense. Reborn here going to be big. What do you reborn? Do you reborn the Tomato or do you reborn the Mech Chaser? It looks like they're going to reborn the Witch. That also works. And Witch is just going to attack in for 11 here, poking in and representing a search if Soul clears it. I think I might have gone Tomato, honestly, because, well, it depends on if Soul's playing many Fissures and things like that. But, yeah. CS says, first of all, Modern isn't Solitaire. Yeah, I mean, I am looking forward to the Modern formats as well. Because I think it will be fun. It'll be a different style of game, for sure. But I just want to cover all the different formats in the game's history. I think that as the game evolves, it's very interesting to trace that evolution. And I think it's still, like, it does change over time. Don't get me wrong. But it's cool seeing, like, how different the cards can actually make the rule set of the game work over time, if that makes sense, you know? But I think that both, you know, I think it's, so I don't want to cause, oh, interesting. So they don't have a Mech Chaser in hand. I thought they had, oh, they might have, oh, or maybe 2 Tomatoes. That's what it was. Okay. But so I don't want to, you know, cause a war between people who like the older formats of the game and people who like the modern format of the game. I think that both are valid, right? And that's what I've always tried to say. Like, I know there's a group of people who just, like, you know, hate retro formats, and there's a group of people who just hate modern formats. Why can't we all just get along? We all like Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, at the end of the day, the game is still Yu-Gi-Oh! Even if it's changed quite a bit. And I think it is kind of just fun to explore how different the game can feel under the same sort of basic framework, you know? So, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the thing that I think turns off a lot of players is, like, the hand traps, really, because, you know, it's activating from the hand, so there's not really a way to predict it. And also, you know, as Vuzara says, like, if you don't have hand traps, then it's, like, a lot harder to actually stop what's going on and things like that. But, like, I do think that there's still fun to be had in both modern and old formats. I'm not going to try and force anyone to play a format that they don't want to. But it's just kind of like live and let live, you know? People are going to enjoy what they want to enjoy. Even in retro formats, people enjoy different things. Like, there's some people who are like, oh, you know, why would you play GOAT when you could play Edison? Or some people are like, oh, why would you play Edison when you could play GOAT, you know? So different people like different things. But at the end of the day, rising tide raises all ships. If the game gets more popular in modern or in retro, it's good for all different formats, in my opinion. So, the Dark Hole is going to come down here. I don't know why Danny sent back. I don't know why they sent back Cyberjar. Because I feel like I mean, I guess Cyberjar refills the hand, and maybe Danny wants to sort of be in this low resource situation. But I feel like Cyberjar is better if you have Maneater Bug, because there's a chance that you can pop the Cyberjar with the bug. There's also a chance that they just attack into the bug with the witch, and then the bug pops the witch, and then they get a search and all that stuff. But I do think that it wasn't. I don't know. I'm just saying what I would have done. Okay, I would have probably sent back the hole, and then just, if they attacked in the bug, I pop the witch. And then I deal with it there. But yeah. But Mech Chaser getting searched out on Soul's part here. And Mech Chaser coming down, so Mech Chaser attacked in for 1850. And that will poke in for 1850. So now, main 2, pass. So we don't know the card remaining in hand. But what will Danny do here? They're going to set 1, set a back row, pass back, so Soul knows what that set monster is. So they can play around it a bit if they want to. So they're thinking of main 1. They've gone through Raigeki and Dark Holes. Danny does not need to worry about that here. That might also be another reason why they wanted to leave Soul with the Dark Hole. Because they're like, I can grind this out a little bit longer. And then once I know that Dark Hole is no longer in the picture, there are more things I can do here. I can set up bigger boards and things like that. But they're also grinding through their witches and Sangans. And I don't quite know how I feel about that too. Because now they're under more pressure than Soul is. So... But I mean, they can search out okay, they're going to search out the bug here. I think that makes sense. Bug's your way to out the Chaser. And it looks like Soul's just going to pass. Okay. Not committing into a potential bug. And you don't need to worry about the bug getting popped by Dark Hole or by Raigeki. Change of Heart can still pop it. I believe that Soul has not used Change of Heart. They have not indeed. And so they can do that. But, yeah. Okay, looks like Danny going to set 1 there. Pass back. Now, what is Soul going to do here? Use attack into the bug. Could also not be a bug. Danny has 1 more card in hand. That could be the bug there. It could be trying to double bluff. Looks like in the comments, people are still arguing about modern format. Yeah, I mean, I've kind of said my thoughts on it. Yeah, I think that modern can be fun. Like, from what I played in Master Duel, it was pretty enjoyable sometimes. Sometimes it wasn't, but just like any Yu-Gi-Oh format, right? There's some games which are fun, some games which aren't. It's just the nature of the game. But it's still fun to see. Okay, it looks like they do have Change of Heart here, so Change of Heart could be pretty rough if that is a bug. You can flip with the bug, pop itself, and then, yep, there it goes. Bug gone. So now the Mechanical Chaser can walk. And that's just going to attack in for 1850. So Danny in a bit of a tough spot here. Bit of a tough spot, yeah. But now the good thing is, like, the more power cards get used, the less you have to play around, right? Because now you don't need to worry about Change of Heart, Dark Hole, right? Raigeki, you don't need to worry about all that. Of course, that set monster could be Magician of Faith, so that is something that, like, you do have to worry about there. Or if it's Moth, they can get back. Change of Heart, Dark Hole, Raigeki, etc. But we'll have to see what Danny does here. They're going to go Fissure on the Mech Chaser. And then what are they going to do? They might just pass. Okay, Change of Heart of their own on the set monster. Maybe hoping it's a Moth, hoping it's a bug. Okay, it looks like it's going to be a Moth there, so they did hope correctly. And now they can get back something good from themselves. They're going to get back a Reborn here to get more aggressive here. Probably going to bring back a Mech Chaser, but they could bring back a Witch or a Sangan or a Tomato or something like that. A lot of different options here. Soul's only gone through 1 Tomato and 1 Grizzly, so that's also good to know about. But it looks like they're going to bring back the Witch. I think that makes sense because... Oh, my word. Oh, okay. Well, this game just got intense. Robbin' Goblin flipping up. So that's going to rip the card out of the hand there. And let's see what it is. Oh, there goes the Cyberjar. Brutal stuff there. 1100 in with the Witch. And now Soul is in very much top deck mode. Now, as I mentioned, they've got a lot of monsters here that can beat over the Witch. So, you know, they definitely have ways out of this. But they have gone through 3 of their 5 power cards here. So that's like a bit tricky here. They do draw the Tomato. Tomato attacks into the Witch there, dealing 300 damage. Getting a peek at the Witch Search before deciding whether to switch them off to defense or leave it in attack. And Danny's going to search through that deck, see what they get. I would say maybe a Mech Chaser because they're down on tomatoes. But they could search out a tomato if they wanted to. Now they're going to search out the Mech Chaser. I think that makes sense. And then main 2, Soul going to switch that off to defense. I think that also makes sense. And passing back to Danny here. So Robbin' Goblin's kind of done its job here. Because Soul has no cards in hand. So even if Danny attacks in with Mech Chaser, it's not going to rip anything out. But the damage has already been done, you know. Like Robbin' Goblin has gone at least a 1-for-1. So that is ultimately pretty good value on a card, I would say. And it might even take more than 1 card. Okay, Mech Chaser coming down here. Probably just going to attack into the tomato, but it could attack into the moth. It looks like they're going to attack into the moth instead. And not let Soul get a search off that tomato onto field. Soul going to draw. Main 1. They only have a couple options of what to do here. So it's either like switch tomato to defense, do something with the card in hand. Like there's only so many things they can do. They could also crash tomato into the Mech Chaser, but I don't think that's necessarily the best move. But it is an option. That's the nice thing when you get down to such low resources. There are only a couple moves you can make. So it really does simplify things quite a bit. However, the flip side of that is if you don't have any good moves to make with those low amount of choices, then it's not going to be the best for you. So tomato getting switched to defense. And is Soul going to commit another card here? Are they not? That might be what they're thinking of. They're like, okay, well, if Raigeki or Fisher or Darkhole come, or I guess it would just be Raigeki. If Raigeki comes down to it, want to lose the card in hand. But okay, it looks like they're going to set 1. So that might be a... It's probably not a backer that does much here because they spend so much time thinking about it being in hand. And also Mirror Force is gone. So that's really the only battle trap in this format. So Danny does not need to worry about that. Could be Trap Hole, though. Could just be a spell. But it could be Fisher, honestly. Fisher, I feel like Fisher, you'd want to use it on the Mech Chaser. But, like, I mean, we'll see here. Mech Chaser comes down. Mech Chaser attacks in to the tomato, and then you get out another monster here. Another tomato, most likely. Oh, Sangan. Okay, so are they out of tomatoes? They're not out of tomatoes, but they're just going for the Sangan, I guess, to get a search. They do lose 850, but now the search happens, so you don't lose the card in hand. And there goes the Sangan search. What's Sangan going to get? Could get a bug. Could get a... Well, I think Cyberjar is limited, so you can't get Cyberjar, but bug, moth, a couple of good things to get. There's no change of heart left for Danny, but the thing is, if you search out moth, then they can just rip that card out of hand after they attack with the moth. So not necessarily ideal for you, you know. Yeah, Robbin' Goblin that's just on field can definitely mess some things up for you. I don't know. I'm curious what they're going to search, what they're going to get. Okay, they are going to search out the Moth. So that implies to me that the back row is probably an MST. And they're debating about using the MST on the Rom-Golem proactively or just holding it. I think it's fine to hold it, so I think they made the right play there. But now that they have that, they can set them off here. The issue is if Danny has another monster here to attack in, like if they have, could they even have another tomato? They could have another tomato. They've got a tomato there. They've got a cannon soldier. If they've got a variety of things, then there's losing in based on damage. Set could also be Waboku. Like we have seen Waboku get played. Danny played it. I think Soul played it as well. Could be a good card here. We'll have to see if that's what it is. Danny checking that opponent's graveyard. Seeing what they can figure out. Heavy Storm here. Now, if it's Waboku, that's going to be a bit rough, but it looks like it will not be. So it's MST and Snatch Steal. Snatch Steal, I don't know why they didn't fire Snatch Steal. I don't know why they didn't do that. Snatch Steal clears the board very easily, and you don't have enough life points to really... Oh, I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think holding the Snatch Steal was a big mistake on Soul's part. I mean, that's a glaring issue with every format CS. They said that, I think a glaring issue with retro formats, that there's always going to be someone who complain of the problematic cards like Trinity and Goat, Oppression, DTV, and Edison, etc. But I think that's going to be just in any format, right? People are like that in modern format. People are like that in every single format under the sun. So, yeah. Okay, there's Tomato, there's Raigeki. So we knew about the Raigeki, but Soul did need to draw a monster, which they did do there. So now they can attack in for 1,400 there. I guess maybe they were holding the Snatch to do a ton of damage here, but like, I don't know. It was a bit of a risky play. I think it was too much of a risk for me, for my blood. But Danny's setting a monster, passing back to Soul. Soul checking their graveyard. Could mean that they have the third Moth. Could mean that they've got a Reborn. We know that Change of Heart is gone for both players, so we know Raigeki's gone for Soul. So the only way to clear that set monster is by attacking into it. Okay, they're thinking. They might not even choose to attack into the set if it's like a tomato, but like, I think you just attack into it either way. Could be a bug, but if it's a bug, you don't want to give them, like, no matter what, you got to attack into it somehow. So I guess Soul's thinking here, like, what do I attack into it with? Do I commit the other monster in my hand in attack mode and beat it that way, or do I do something else there? But yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of variety / options in deck building pre-PGD, as CS says, but I do think that there's more than a lot of people give it credit for. Kind of like how in GOAT format, like, minor changes to, Chaos Turbo can make for a deck that people view as completely different. I think the same thing is true here as well. Yeah, Soul definitely giving it a thonk. Giving it a good think. I feel like the thing that you would really think about is like Reborn. I think with Reborn, you just Reborn Mech Chaser and just try and beat in. Danny could have like Raigeki. That's a risk, but like if they have Raigeki, you're like losing the game probably either way. So you just try and you have to try and beat them down before they can beat you down, right? So painful. Okay, that is definitely a thing. I guess they're just milling out the worst cards in your deck, maybe, to improve the quality of what's left. I think that's what I would do here, because I don't think that there are 5 cards you can send that win you the game, especially with Change of Heart, Raigeki, Darkhold already gone. So yeah, looks like they're going to send Forceful. Comfy's already gone. The question is, are they playing Duo going second, right? Cat format guide's coming right after this stream. It is in the tank. It's all ready. I finished up getting it all formatted for YouTube and stuff right before I started stream, and I was just like, you know what? It's not productive for me to actually, put this out as the stream's going. So I will just I'll just put it out right after the stream. So don't worry. It's about 3 hours long, just slightly under 3 hours. So a lot of fun stuff to go through there. It was a long one, but it was a fun one too. So I'm excited to dive into Cat proper with some games. So yeah, that'll be good. But saying Wuboku, Grizzly, Gumo, and Sentry here. I feel like you give well, it depends on if Danny thinks that they can win in a turn or not. So this will be a bit informative about what Danny has. It looks like they're going to give the Forceful. Interesting. That means that the set might be bug. Yeah, interesting stuff here. Okay, that's going to attack into the set. See what it is. Okay, it's a Banisher. Ooh. That's going to be rough for Soul. They do have the Forceful. Honestly, if I was Danny, I think I might have given them the Grizzly if it was Banisher, because Grizzly doesn't get value when Banisher's up, and you know exactly that Soul does not have a way to deal with Banish for this turn. But Forceful takes back whatever you have in hand. I guess it's just heavy, but like now you're making it so that you could potentially draw a heavy here, which you don't necessarily want, So I feel like I would have just given the Grizzly, but that's just me. Yeah, I'm excited for DSF Hell. I think it's fun. I said earlier in the stream, I think it might have been before you got here, but I said that like, it's a very different form for Treasure, but I think you can appreciate the grind of a format like Treasure and the high-paced nature of a format like Cat, and just roll with it. It's kind of fun. But yeah, Crush Card. It's the last form of Crush Card. Cat format is, and definitely a polarizing card that a lot of people do not like. But it's a card that's around, and so you have to sort of play around it. Okay, Tomato coming down here. Tomato attacking into that Tomato, and that will just banish both. And yeah, just saying, okay, this is how it is. You could switch the Banisher to attack, but I feel like it's probably wise not to, just in case a monster gets drawn. And also, you are doing better on cards in terms of like deck out, so Forceful could have also just been like, oh, just give me an extra card in deck, so that way I don't deck out. But yeah, Soul's kind of in a really tough spot here. Very, very tough spot. They can still Reborn for Gumo if they draw into that. That is something they can do. But it's not looking good for Soul here. Danny not committing the card in hand. That tells me it's probably not a monster. Might not be a back row either. They're afraid of MST potentially. Could be a hand rip. Could definitely be a hand rip. Still holding those cards in hand. Soul just setting everything. Saying if you got heavy, you got heavy. I don't necessarily know. I mean, what it could be, you set the first one to bluff, so that way Danny potentially doesn't get aggressive. You set the second because it's a card you actually want, like Trap Hole. And then you set the third because it's like Wuboku. That could be it. But yeah, Danny's setting two. Question is, does Danny ever switch the Banish to attack and just attack in? Again, Mirror Force is gone. You're just worried about monsters. But there are only 9 cards left in Soul's deck, so a monster could be coming. So I do think it makes sense just to play patiently, right? You don't need to just beat in with Banish for every turn. You just leave it there, make it annoying for Soul, and yeah, and potentially just win the game by deck out. So Danny's still thinking, though, after setting that last spell trap. I think their Reborn's used up. Yeah, their Reborn's used up, so they don't have that. Yeah, they're just going to pass back. Again, it's tempting to switch the Banisher to attack, but I think it makes sense not to. Pot of Greed here coming down. That will bring Soul closer to deck out, but you kind of need to do something here. Pot of Greed does get banished. Get it out of there. Get it out of the grave if they're listening. Because, you don't want Moth to be able to get that back. Not that it would, but it could. So, Pot, get it out. Get it out. Get it out of here. I don't want to see it in there. I mean, it won't matter probably, but still good to have best practice. Soul thinking. Danny has used up Mirror Force as well, so you don't need to worry about that. But it looks like Soul just passing back again. Does Danny have any monsters left? Probably another Sangan. Probably another Witch as well. They're going to set another, though, so that could be... Oh, I wonder what that could be. Interesting. Could be another Bansher, honestly. I would see bringing in multiple Bansher against this deck. I could definitely see that. Soul thinking here. Giving it a think. Giving it a thunk. Giving it a think. Also, this game has lasted an hour. So that's fun. Fun milestone there. We've passed the hour mark in the stream, and the game started right after stream. Actually, it's not lasted quite an hour yet, but it's essentially lasted an hour. Yeah, Watch Chat didn't record that, I don't think. And I can't check the log, but it's definitely been a grind. But again, that can be fun. How are y'all doing out there? All 6 of you watching currently. You enjoying what you're seeing? You reading any good books? Watching any good shows or movies? Anything like that? There isn't really much to talk about on this game stage. Just like, yeah, I mean, like the back row you need to worry about is Soul, like Trap Hole or Waboku, basically. But like, Danny has Soul like almost in checkmate because it's like Soul's at 5 cards in deck. No way to add cards from graveyard back to deck. Same with cards on field. Yeah, it's kind of over. It's Jover. It's Jover. I'm dooming. I'm dooming and glooming. Oh, Alien Romulus. I've heard that's really good. I'm not really a big horror guy myself, but I've got a friend who's like obsessed with that movie. Loves it. So, yeah. Which I'm happy about. I always like when, people get cynical about franchises, and I understand that because it's like, yeah, it makes sense to want like new movies coming out, right? But I do think it's fun when a movie comes out that sort of revitalizes a franchise. And I think that's what Romulus did, from what I've heard. So, yeah, Heavy ripping apart that back row. And Soul will also lose their back row, too. It's not Harpies yet. So, I guess they just got a slow connection, maybe? Or I've got a slow connection. Okay, there they all go. I feel like you might want to activate Will before doing Heavy, just in case. But I guess they were worried about Solemn. But even if you're worried about Solemn, you still go for Will first, Yeah, they all get banished. So, yep. Not that it really matters much, but like, Pot should also be banished. I don't think it matters again, but it's something there. Okay, I might give it a watch then, Dalton. Thank you for recommending it. That'd make my friend very happy because he's been trying to get everyone he knows to see it. So yeah, I'll give it a watch and let you know what I think of it if you come to the next stream and ask. But yeah, I've heard the original Alien's also very good. I've not seen the original Alien. That might be a bit blasphemous, but I've not seen it. I do want to see it at some point because I feel like it's just such an iconic movie at this point that like it's worth watching. So I'll probably watch the original Alien and then watch Romulus. I don't know if it's bad to skip through like all the sequels to Alien in the middle of that, but yeah, I mean I'll give it a watch and see if I like it. Yeah. I do enjoy thrillers sometimes. It's just that when it gets to like horror, it's kind of iffy for me. But I've heard that Alien's more on the thriller side of horror, if that makes sense. Um, where it's definitely scary, but like it's more like about tension than like, um, you know, I don't know quite how to word it, but Reborn here probably bring back Gumo, I would assume. Just Gumo hit over like Banisher. Yep, there goes the Gumo. Gumo attack into Banisher. Oh, attack into the set. Interesting. Okay. I guess you do this in case it's like Sangan or something. But if it was Sangan, I feel like you just bring out Sangan attack. Oh, no. Moff is going to be pretty good here. That's rough. You might want to get Change or Reborn of your own. Change is probably best here, honestly. Or Fissure. Yeah, Fissure actually might be the move instead. Because Fissure actually clears it. So, yeah, I think Fissure makes sense. It's kind of weird because normally you do Change of Heart, but if Soul has Waboku, which they might, because they've only gone through 2, then you want to get the Fissure instead. But this is a tricky one. This is a tricky choice, I will say. Do you want to get greedy, go for the change, or do you want to do Fissure and play the slow game? Keep in mind, Fissure, Soul could have Fissure as well. You don't know what you're drawing. So, like, there is a chance Soul comes back from this before they deck out. So that is also a consideration. It looks like they're going to go for the change of heart there. And try and use that. So, oh, that's GG's. Okay. If I was Soul, I maybe would have bluffed something with a set, but I feel like they didn't have another monster in hand, or else they would have brought that out along with Gumo, done Gumo into Banisher, and then the monster into the set. But yeah, Banisher putting in work game 1 and game 3. It was kind of the killer here. So showing the power of Banisher for sure. But Soul's deck is kind of specifically vulnerable to Banisher because they're playing Last Will, all that stuff. So yeah. DNA says, I think it would be fun to introduce old formats, but on their OCG variation. I am thinking about potentially doing that after I finish going through all the TCG formats, but it's just, I've got so many more to do, right? Like, we're only in like 2009 on the channel right now. And so that is like a long time until we reach the modern day. And then I'd be going back to OCG. So it will take a bit, but I have thought about that after I'm done with the current thrust that I'm going on. But I do also think, and I've always said this too, like, because it's going to take me a while to get to that sort of thing. So if someone else wants to do that in the meantime, like if someone else wants to do like, an OCG from 0 series and do that sort of thing, like I definitely support that. I think that's a very, very good idea. I think it would be fun to sort of go through. And so I definitely support people doing that. But for me, it will take a while before I get there. So just letting people know. But I'm not opposed to the idea on the face of it, even though I am more of a fan of the TCG just because of what I grew up with and what I, am used to. But yeah, I could definitely see myself doing that eventually. I've also said that I would go through the old like game formats, like the Game Boy games and all that stuff, and sort of explore that. So I've also thought that might be a fun idea. So yeah, someone else recommended that on stream as well. So that would be also something that I do after I make it all the way through the TCG formats. But love to see Chimera Tech format getting some hype here. Great format. Yeah, hopefully it catches on more. I think it's a fun one. But for a format to really catch on, it kind of takes a YouTuber really pushing it like exclusively. And I've always said that I'm more of a breadth, not depth type of guy. So I'm sort of going through all the formats, showing them off, so that way people can hopefully find formats that they enjoy and latch onto. I think Chimera Tech is a great candidate for a format that does catch on later. But, no one can predict the future. We'll have to see if that's what happens. And, yeah. So Danny versus Deadlet's going to happen soon. We don't quite know when it will happen, but okay, it looks like it is going on now. It's going down. There they are, Didlet and Danny diving in to the game, to match 2. Will this one also take an hour? I hope not, but we'll see. So Didlet's going first here. drawing a card for a turn. They're going to start with a coffee. Pretty good start. Ripping out the hand. This to me tells me that they don't have duo, because then you generally want to do duo then coffee. There's no force, or there's no serpent in this format, so you can happily just do duo then coffee, and then, you know, sort of you've ripped the 2 random cards, and then you get a better choice of what's left. But yeah. What are they gonna rip? What are they gonna rip out? What are they gonna tear from that hand, kicking and screaming? You know, that's such a violent description of a hand rip. But to be fair, the coffee art is like very violent. You know, it's like there's someone like, no, don't take that. My prized possession, you know. Okay, looks like trap hole, heavy, snatch, moth. Pretty good hand there overall. Looks like they're going to set 1, set 2, and pass back and say heavy this, you coward. But yeah, no monster that can really get aggressive here. That could be a Man-Eater Bug set. So that is a bit of a thing that Danny might have to play around here. But it's unclear if they can play around it or not. So we'll have to see what happens. It also might not be a Man-Eater Bug. It could be a bluff. Could be a moth also to get back the coffee. But I feel like that set is not moth. Because if it was moth, you'd go heavy first and then set them off. And then get back to heavy. But it looks like it's a moth of Didled's own, so they're going to grab back that coffee there. They might coffee first just to get information, but I don't even think you need to do that. You know the set card's probably trap hole. Okay, they're going to come for heavy here. Heavy hitting that trap hole. And then you can probably attack into the set. Raigeki. Oh, interesting. I don't know if I would have done that. There's no spells engrave. But it looks like they want to get the draw off the Masked Sorcerer, so that makes sense. They're getting very aggressive there. We know about Snatch in hand, but they might just, you know, rip that out with the coffee. And yeah, there goes 900 plus 300. And yeah, that's brutal all around. The 1200 has been inflicted. Main 2, what are they going to do? Probably go for coffee here. Take away that Snatch deal, I assume. But they could take away a, you know, monster in hand as well. It could beat over the Masked Sorcerer. But this will be a tricky one here. They're going to rip away the Snatch indeed. Makes sense. And they're going to set 1. Not afraid of that heavy. Saying heavy me, you cowards. You don't have the guts. You don't have the guts to heavy me. Yeah, Banisher is brutal. Banisher's brutal soul. So no shame in being got by the Banisher. There goes the heavy. But it looks like no monster in hand to, you know, really capitalize off it. But just saying, you know what, I gotta do this eventually. I feel like for me personally, I would use heavy when I actually want to make a play, because now Didled has the opportunity to sort of, you know, reset some cards and have actually things online here. So I think that was a little bit of a misplay from Danny. But we'll have to see exactly what happened. They could have also said, like, okay, that set might be Woboku, so I'm going to bait out the heavy now, and then when I want to make a play, I can do that later. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting play there. Trap hole on the Witch, so Danny will get a search. But the issue is that they're sort of bleeding out cards, you know, like Didled's got the tempo, he's got the advantage, so they can just, you know, keep getting in here, keep poking in damage, potentially switching the Sorcerer to attack to just get those draws coming in. And yeah, it could be a bit rough for them. I think, honestly, I would have even left the Masked Sorcerer in attack last turn. If it's a Mirror Force, the Mirror Force is gone now. You still have them off in defense. You got the trap hole. I feel like it might have been better just to try and get that draw in there. But they're playing it cautious, so I can't necessarily, you know, fault that. Painful. Ooh. Yeah, Painful's pretty good. A lot of good options here, too. Duo, brutal. Even Forceful's brutal as well. Like, the hand rips are very good here. And then you get 3 good cards on top of that. You could just do hand rip, 3 MST. Just trying to get rid of that back row. And then potentially rip apart the hand. So that could be it. Pot of Greed getting sent there. So Pot of Greed's a very good card. Pot, Duo, MST, MST. Are they going to do Forceful as well? I feel like you do Forceful here. Forceful, yep. So, pretty good set of 5 to send. If you're Danny, what do you pick? Well, the set's Waboku. You take the MST for sure, but you might give them the pot. Pot is an option here. It's just so good, getting them so many valuable cards. Forceful might be the move, just hoping to get the top deck later. At least Forceful's a 1-for-1. I don't know. It's rough. You get 2+1s there. Definitely not giving them the duo. Like, you give them Forceful over duo any day of the week. Yeah, it's just so rough. It's such a rough set to give them. I feel like it might be the Forceful or the pot. I would go probably Forceful, but I don't know what Danny has in hand. It's brutal. This is brutal. MST, okay. Giving them the MST. The awkward thing is that MST is also a +1 here if the set is not Waboku, because MST allows the Mass Sorcerer to get in without fear, and then you draw a card off that. So it wasn't indeed the Mirror Force. I maybe would have just done Forceful. I would have probably done the Forceful here, actually. Because basically you turned the MST into a +1, and Danny's also down 3,700 life points, too. That's rough. That is rough. I don't know. But, I mean, to be fair, I think Danny's kind of cooked here. I think they're kind of cooked no matter what. I'm not sure if there's a way they have out of this except for like a Dark Hole Raigeki, but even then, Didled gets the search off Witch. Witch coming down here of Danny's own. Will that get Trap Hold? Looks like it will not, so now they can attack in with the Witch into the Sork. Will that go through? Didled thinking here. You never want to see that. And then the Waboku will be fired. I think, honestly, if I was Danny, I would have set the Witch because they can't actually get through it, right? So this will defend you. Whereas if you don't set the Witch, you can crash with the Witch you got if you're Didled and then attack in for another 9. Reborn here, so you get a bit of a defensive option here, probably going for another Witch. In attack mode, it's interesting. I would have done in defense mode. I don't know about an attack mode there, honestly. I mean, I don't think it matters here either way. But yeah, Fisher here on one of the Witches. Danny does get a search from that, but now they're, still taking damage from the Sork, and that Sork is still drawing a card here. So it's looking pretty bad. Now, never say never in this format, because there are a lot of powerful cards that you can get. But it is looking not good. I was going to say, are we seeing a Summoned Skull come down here? But yeah, Summoned Skull would tribute over the Magician of Faith, for sure, because that's, like, not quite lethal, but it's basically lethal. So Witch gets their search off. So Danny does search first, and then Didled searches. So we know that there's a Tomato in hand. So the question is, and this also explains why Danny summoned the Witch, because they had the Reborn. So if Witch got Trap Hold or Mirror Force, you had Reborn to bring back another thing. So that makes sense. But yeah, it is a bit tricky for Danny. I don't know. Do you just go Mech Chaser? Do you go Sangan? A lot of different questions here. Maneater Bug. Okay. That is a fine choice, I think. And now Didled gets a search here as well. The thing is that Didled can just search out a Maneater Bug of their own, set that Maneater Bug, and just, pop the Maneater Bug that Danny sets on the following turn. The issue with doing that is that it plays into things like, Raigeki, Dark Hole, etc. But Mass Sorcerer drawing another card here. Just poking in, drawing. That Mass Sorcerer has gone very, very plus on cards. And so that's very, very good for Danny here. Or for Didled here, not Danny. They both have D names. They both start with a D, end with a D. So, and have Ds in the middle. So it's very tough to keep these players straight. But MST on the back row there. What's it going to be? Is it going to be another Waboku? Is it going to be a Trap Hole, Mirror Force? an MST of Didlet's Own, so it's a bit of a bluff there. But honestly, even if the Stork dies here, it got a lot of value, so Didlet's probably not upset about losing it. I mean, you're obviously somewhat upset, but, like, you're probably not too torn up about, like, you know, what that card did for you, you know? So, Danny passing back. We know about Bug in hand. And I think that's it. I think that's all we know in hand. Didlet thinking they could bring out a Mech Chaser, just poke into the Tomato, deal 450. They might not want to do that, though, because then Danny could get out like a Sangan or Witch. Looks like they're just going to set one, pass back. That could be a Bug, could be a Moth, could be a variety of very nasty things that Danny does not want to have to deal with. No change of heart from Danny yet as well. So, well, there's the change of heart. So we'll have to see if that is something indeed nasty or if it is just a bluff like Sangan or Witch. The fact that it's taking so long for Didlet to pass it over might mean that it's something nasty. Because generally, if like you bluff someone into using change of heart, you're like, yeah, take it. You know, see what it is, right? But if it's something that you're like, oh, please don't have change of heart. Oh, there's the change of heart. You know, then that's a bit bad. This could also be connection issues on my part. We've had that already so far. Oh, nope, hand shuffle. So there we go. Card passed over, and it's a Sangan. Okay, it was a bluff. It was a bluff. I mean, they're taking the same. They're taking the set. They're not taking the Moth that's been used up already. There's no Tsukiyomi in this format. Yeah, DB's been lagging a bit. I think it's just when you have server this big supporting so many people, I can't just. It's tough to run. So the fact that DB runs at all is a miracle, that we should be thankful for. So even if it does lag sometimes, it is what it is, right? So we gotta be grateful for what we got, But that set is a Bug there. You know that Danny does not have Mirror Force because that has been used up already, or not used up, but destroyed already. So that is engraved. Set is Bug because that was searched off earlier. So Didlet could just attack in. Okay, well, they got double Sangan there, so that's funny. That means they probably have a Fisher as well. Yep, they're going to Fisher. Honestly, this isn't even really necessary, right? It's just like, you can do that main phase too, honestly, if you're thinking about that. Well, actually, no, there is a world in which they will Boku this, and then you can't quite do it main phase too. So, yeah, I think that's probably still better. Danny thinking here, if you got Waboku, you don't do it for sure. Because, like, you can pop the Sangan that is not attacked, right? So you're not taking damage this turn. You're just losing your monster. Unless you play Summon Skull, and you're like, if I top deck Summon Skull here, that's going to be bad. That's a 1 out of 26 chance. So I assume they just play 1 if they are playing 1. But yeah, there goes the Bug. Bug pop the Sangan that is not attacked. I mean, this is straightforward here. Yeah, there you go. Sangan gets a search. Searching out Tomato. Yeah, I mean, Danny's a bit cooked here. He's a tad bit cooked. Set card, though. Set card could be something good. Could be Banisher, which we did see turn the game around for Danny against Soul. Tomato comes down. Tomato attacks into the set monster. It's the Banisher! Let's go! Banisher stock on the rise. Oh, man. So, yeah, will Banisher be able to turn this game around like it did in Game 1 versus Soul and Game 3 versus Soul? That's the question. Danny just passing back. Didlet set in 1, so that implies it's either Moth or a Bug. So obviously things you don't want to be, facing down when you just have a Banisher there. Danny setting 1, passing back. Didlet drawing. It is indeed the Moth. So Moth getting its effect off here. It's going to grab probably the... Oh, grabbing the heavy. So that implies they've got another way to deal with the Banisher there. Bulboku getting chained to the heavy there, so that will protect Danny this turn. They get banished. Banish him out of here. Get him gone. Get him out. I mean, will that matter? Could matter. But get those cards out of here. Kind of surprised they didn't have a way to deal with Banisher there. But 2 more back row. Passing back. What will Diddled do? They've got a... Oh, damn, okay. Cannon Soldier very threatening here. No trap hole on that, though. Snatch MST on that. So that means that Banisher will not be snatched today. Looks like there have been some lagging stuff for our watching experience. Still Cannon Soldier Tribute Moth. Good play. Deal 500. You can even tribute more if you want to. Today we'll be at 23 here. Contribute the Sangan and the Tomato. Dropping them down to 13 if you want to, but it looks like they're leaving that in place. I think that's fine. The big downside would be if Danny draws into Raigeki. Yeah, I'm kind of curious why... Okay, there goes Giant Soldier. I'm kind of curious why Diddled didn't get back like Fisher or Raigeki or something like that. Because I feel like the Banisher is the problem here. Like, the back row can't be Mirror Force. So, like, even if there's Bulboku, you don't care about that. And if there's Bulboku, it's getting baited out anyways. So, like, what are you afraid of? Solemn? Solemn, you know, heavy baits out Solemn anyways. So, like, you don't care about that. Mech Chaser coming down. Will that get trap hold? Okay, looks like it will not. I can attack in for 550. But Bulboku will come down, so Bulboku will stop that from getting over the stone. Diddled setting 1, passing back. I think Diddled's still in a very good spot with that Cannon Soldier up. Makes things very difficult for Danny here. Stone in defense. Cannon coming down. Cannon trying to crash into Cannon most likely. Oh. I don't think that was the right move, but it doesn't matter because Mirror Force getting that cannon out of there. I feel like Cannon Soldier is the threat, though, because, you know, yes, while Banishers, you want to get rid of Tomato while Banishers up, but the thing is that Cannon Soldier is your clock, right? If Danny, or if Diddled just, you know, gets out enough monsters to kill you through the Cannon Soldier, then you're dead. So, like, I think Cannon Soldier wants to hit into Cannon Soldier, especially because you're reaching deck out territory. Oh, Gumo. Okay. Gumo, interesting. Attacking into the Banisher, going for tails. Hitting heads, so they're down to 1,600. That's a bit scary, because if Raigeki comes off the top, then they Raigeki the board, attack him with stone, and then you're down to 300 life points. I don't know about some of these plays. Some of these plays have been a bit iffy. If they've got a monster, they win here, though. That's 2,500 damage. They do need to have a monster. So, yep, that's the end of the game. 2,500 damage coming through, which is why you get rid of the Cannon Soldier, right? It's about, like, the clock that you have on board. So, yep, there we go. There's the admission of defeat. And on to game 2. Very intense ones here so far. Very intense ones indeed. Have you all played Treasure before as well? I just figured I might as well ask the people in the audience. Like, is this your first experience with Treasure? Or, Have you seen my videos on it? Just curious. Just trying to understand, uh, you know, how much I should explain about it and all that stuff in the commentary. It's a fun format if you haven't tried it out, but yeah. Yeah, Gumo is a fun tech card. I think Soul did provide Didled with this list, so yeah, very, very cool stuff, Soul. But yeah, I think it is good, especially against like Banisher, because Banisher is very hard to deal with otherwise. Gumo can also be good at just attacking in and dealing that last bit of damage, even when you're low life. I know that some people like Dark Elf better than Gumo. Dark Elf, I'm a Dark Elf hater. I don't, or not a hater, but I'm not a believer in Dark Elf. Dark Elf can't get rid of the 2K defenders, so there's not really much reason to play it, in my opinion. And I've thought that since Critter format. I don't really like it in Critter either. I think Gumo's the better card because it just gets over more things that you're afraid of. And you can attack with it at any life point total, even if you're lower than 1,000. So, yeah. Yeah, need to help Diddle with their Tails game. Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, they missed the Gumo flip there. But that will happen when you play Gumo. You live by the coin, die by the coin. Pot of Greed, going to be a good start. Comfy as well, good start. Oh, my word. The question is, do you want a Comfy now or do you want a Comfy after the set card's gone? I generally like to Comfy after, dealing with the set card in case it's a Sangan or a Witch. They might have other ways to deal with that in hand, though. So they might be doing Comfy first, get a Lay of the Land, and then they go for Forceful after the Sangan or Witch activation or something. But yeah, hitting the Reborn there. Better hope that set's not a Moth. That would be pretty bad. But I don't think you'd set Moth into an empty graveyard unless you're like, my opponent's going to get a hand rip. And they're going to use the hand rip before attacking into the set. So, Forceful as well coming down here. Interesting. I guess they're not planning on attacking this turn, is my guess. Because that would be the only reason why you'd use these hand rips before attacking in. Oh, they are attacking. Okay. So, Trap Hole coming down, though, so that'll prevent that from attacking in. But again, it's like, I don't know about this. I feel like you do the hand rips main 2, or after you go for the Mechanical Chaser attack. No Morphing Jar in this format, so you don't need to worry about things getting ripped out of your hand. But now, there's the Witch, for instance. So, if you'd gone for the hand rips after attacking the Witch, maybe they would have let the attack go through because they're like, oh, I get a good search here to deal with the Mechanical Chaser. You rip that away, right? So I don't think that was the right series of moves on Didled's part. But I mean, yeah, it's kind of rough. Okay, passing back to Didled here. Let's see what they do. Setting one. Setting another. Is that it? Oh, no. Oh. What's going on here? They're thinking. Oh, they're thinking. They might have a different line of play. They're going to go for Witch. Looks like there's some debate about whether they can do this or not. In my opinion, the locals, it's casual. Like, if Danny does have a problem with it, then definitely put them back. But I'm generally more loose with this sort of thing when it happens here. Okay. Now it looks like the Witch is going to come down, attacking the Sangan there. That Sangan will get a search. What's it going to search out? Could search out a Banisher. Getting closer to 2K. Yep, we are. Yeah, 1901. So we're less than 100 away from 2K. I'll be very exciting. I don't know what my 2K special would be, but yeah, we're inching closer ever so slightly. So I'm excited to get to 2K if we ever make it there. It'll be fun. I haven't been able to produce many videos lately, which is not something YouTube likes. YouTube likes when you just put out content, right? And I was able to follow that model, for a while, but unfortunately, lately I have not been able to. But I still try and make videos when I can. So yeah, we'll get there eventually, though, I think. And eventually we'll go back to making videos at a faster rate. So look forward to that, hopefully. But yeah, 300. Did get to search. Okay, there goes the search. Getting that tomato there. Tomato, tomato. What do you all say? Do you all say tomato or tomato? I say tomato. I feel like most people I've ever met say tomato, but I don't know. Maybe there's some tomato enjoyers out there. Okay, MST on the background end phase. If that had been an MST of Danny's, then they could have chained that, because at this point in the game's history, you can actually activate quick play spells to turn their set, which is kind of crazy, but it is how it worked back in the day. And we follow by the old rules. That's why you will draw for turn on the first turn. Looks like we got a classic tomato war going here. Both players, I believe, have access to all their tomatoes, so they will be able to go through those. Any on the Sangan here for Danny saying, I don't want no tomato war. No, we're not doing that. Yeah, I think tomato is very British. Very British, as Soul says. You what, mate? You want a tomato? Sorry for any British people out there who I butchered the accents for, but that's the only way I can make a British accent, is if I'm saying, like, you what, mate? You know, for some reason that really brings it out of me. I can't really do a British accent outside of that phrase. Or outside of saying tomato. So yeah, I feel like that's something that, like, a lot of people do when they're trying to do an accent. Like, they just do go for the most stereotypical phrase possible. Heavy on the back row here. We'll both be getting chained in that, but losing the Mirror Force is rough. Very, very rough there. You want that Mirror Force in play. That was a good battle trap. But it looks like Danny setting one, passing back. Things are not looking as hot for Didled this game. Dark Hole, though, is going to be pretty good here. Getting rid of the entire field. Danny does get 2 searches off the Witch. But Didled gets sort of, the tempo, right? They get to act first with their Witch. Question is, what are they going to search? Are they going to search out a Sangan? Are they going to search out something else? Looks like Danny's going to search out Mech and one other card. They're going to search out... What do you search out? Maybe a Sangan? Just getting that last search there. Maybe a tomato. Oh, no Sangans left for Danny. Okay, can't do that. Maybe a Bonds Beyond Time themed special, since we're at 3 animes at this point. Maybe. I might do that. If I can find a box of Metal Raiders, I might open that as well, because that was my 1K special, was opening a box of Yugi Kaiba. Yeah, searching out Cannon Soldier. You never want to see that as Didled. Because then you're like, uh-oh, what do they have planned for me, Mech Chaser coming down here for 1850 attacking in. That will indeed go through. And now, main 2. What are they going to do main 2? Oh, just passing. Okay. Very scary if you're Didled. Not ideal here. Might mean that they've got change of heart here. Nope, just Mech Chaser coming down, crashing in. There goes the other Mech Chaser. But Didled will get to sort of have the tempo there. Oh no. Oh no. Oh, that's brutal. That is brutal. Yep, that is... Oh. And also no cards on field here. Tomato coming down, attacking for 14. That will indeed go through. Passing back. Not looking good for Didled. Not looking good at all. Oh, no. Oh, that's the end of the game. That's the end of the game right there, because of the Can Soldier. And we're on to game 3. Okay. Very interesting ones. But yeah, that was a brutal end to that game. I think you have to set a bluff there going into that last turn, because it's like you can't do anything else, That's how it goes sometimes. So it goes, as they say in Slaughterhouse 5. Good book. That's the only Vonnegut book I've read, honestly, Slaughterhouse 5. But I thought it was good. I think Catch-22 is the better war novel. That's my favorite war novel. One of my favorite novels of all time. But Slaughterhouse 5, definitely good. Definitely good as well. Yeah. I gotta give Catch-22 more love, because Catch-22 is, like, a very unique novel, in my opinion. It's one of the only books that is just, like... I know that there are a lot of different, media that, like, switches genre, like, very well. Like Catch-22 does it the best, where you read it, and it starts out as a comedy, and you're reading and reading and reading, and then at some point that you can't even pinpoint, it becomes a tragedy. And every joke that you laughed at takes on such a sad meaning, and just such a masterful. I don't even know how he does it. It's just very, very good book. Catch 22. If you've never read it, it can be a bit tough to get into. It's a nonlinear storytelling style. So, it's kind of jumping around to different events, different points in time. Kind of like as Slaughterhouse 5 does. Except Slaughterhouse 5, I think, is easier to make sense of in terms of the timeline. Because it's like very clear when he's like on the spaceship, when he's, in the army, all that stuff, right? It's very easy to tell. Whereas Catch 22, it's a bit tougher because generally it's the same like setting the whole time. So it's like, at what point in time was this at this, but Catch 22 is just such a good book. Highly recommend everyone read it at least once in their life. If you're having trouble with the beginning, just bear with it. Read it for the humor at first, and then once you start to care more about it, you can sort of like start to piece together the timing of when everything happens. Great book though. Mechanical Chaser coming down, attacking in to that set monster. What will it be? It'll be a tomato or tomato if you're British. That bringing out a monster from deck. Are they going to bring out a Sangan, a Witch, a tomato? They're going to bring out another tomato here. Main 2. Is Danny going to fisher that, or is that going to ride? Okay, Danny's setting 1, setting another, passing back. Okay. 2 back row. Could be a juicy heavy for Didled. We'll have to see if it is a juicy heavy. They're thinking. They're thinking about what exactly to do here. Oh, thank you, Papa Perez. You're a treasure too. Honestly, everyone out there is watching. You're all treasures. You're a treasure to someone, out there. And it's an important thing to keep in mind, right? Like, everyone out there, you are loved. And, keep up the great work. So, yeah. But yeah, we all got to treasure what we've got, treasure these moments, treasure these games, treasure the people in our life. And, sorry for getting deep there, but it's it's wholesome. I try and be wholesome when I can, The Undertaler. It's just, I don't know. I feel like it's something that people need to hear sometimes, right? And like, if I can be the one to tell them that, I'm happy to do so. And I think studies have shown that like self-affirmation does actually help out a lot, in your life. If you just look in the mirror every day and you're like, you are special. You are someone who has value. You are, important, right? Then it does, even if you're not feeling it at the time that you say that, like it does actually help you out and mentally. And yeah. So, if anyone's going through a rough patch out there, you're not alone. You are loved. And, and even if you're not going through a rough patch, you're still loved, you're still treasured. And, Is Papa Red's Bruno Mars? Oh, yeah, that is a song, right? I think. I don't know. I haven't really heard much of Bruno Mars' discography. I've heard like Locked Out of Heaven, Uptown Funk, but like those are the big ones. I think Uptown Funk was like Mark Ronson, and then Bruno Mars featured on it. I don't quite know which one of them sang that, but great songs. So yeah. Okay, it looks like Danny's doing the hand ripping now, sending a Gumo and leaving MST, Mirror Force, and Waboku. That implies that the set might be Banisher, right? Because you're like, okay, I want this Banisher to survive, and the Gumo can get over it. But it looks like it was a bluff. It's just a Sangan set there. Could also have been because they can play around the MST or the Mirror Force or the Waboku. But they can't play around Gumo. But yeah, Danny will get a search here. Searching something from the deck. What will it be? Will be a bug. Bug to potentially pop tomato. Okay. Passing back. Not setting any of the cards in their hand. Interesting. I feel like I would have set a Waboku at the very least. But I don't quite know if that's, if that makes sense or not. Change of heart on the tomato there. So there's going to be 2,800 damage, and then the Cannon Soldier will tribute off that tomato. Yeah, I feel like if you set a back row, at least there's the bluff of something, right? Even if they wouldn't know which one of the 3 cards it is, most likely is, I feel like you still set there. But Yeah, Diglett taking a fair bit of damage here. Taking a fair bit of punches. Set back row could also be Waboku here. So if you MST it preemptively, then it's also kind of awkward. Could just be Trap Hole or Mirror Force of Danny's own. Diglett in kind of tough spot here. Setting 1, setting 2. It looks like no MST in the end phase here. Okay, Battle the Cannon Soldier hidden in for 14. Do you let that go through? Looks like Mirror Force will be used on that Cannon Soldier. Okay. It is a bit of a threat. It is a bit of a threat there indeed. So that will get that out of the way. And then main 2, what's Danny going to do? They're going to set 1 and pass. Okay. Diglett back in the driver's seat here. What are they going to do? I will say one of the nice things about Treasure format is that I feel like each player goes through a lot of their deck, which is always nice to see because, like, you put cards in your deck for a reason a lot of the time, and you want to play them. You know, that's why you put them in your deck. So it is kind of fun just to, you know, go through them, actually play them all, and yeah, it's kind of neat there. But Diglett in a bad spot. Seems like they're very monsterless. Now, they don't have many of those. And Sangan's going to get flipped up, poke in for 1,000. And that might just be enough. Just poking him with Sangan, Witch, etc. That could be enough to close this thing out. Send another back row. Mech Chaser coming down. Will it get Trap Hold? So it will not get Trap Hold. Will it get Mirror Force? It will get Mirror Force. So there it goes. The one monster that Diglett had to their name. Gone. Passing back to Danny here. Waboku probably in the back row, but Danny's just going to hit him for 1,000. Makes sense. Just poking in, chipping away. Game after game. Sangan is the sort of MVP a lot of times. Sangan and Witch, it just does so much. It's just such an annoying card to face down because you know your opponent's going to get something else off of it. Could be another Sangan or Witch even. And it's just such a powerful card. Change of Heart on the set, though. What will that be? Bug popping the Sangan, in fact. Interesting. I would have maybe popped the Bug. But Witch getting searched out off that. Attacking in for 450. I don't know. It's a bit tricky there. Yeah, it did attack in. They took the 450. Unless we're having connection issues, which could also be the case. Okay, 7-1, setting 2, passing back. Bug does go back to Danny. So Bug is back on Danny's side of the field. Okay, it doesn't really matter here, I guess, because Dark Hole's going to get fired. Pop both those. Yep, there we go. This is indeed pre-PSV. Yep, this is only LOB, MRD, and MRL. So the first 3 sets of the game. And also the starter decks, like SDY, SDK, you know. But yeah, so you don't have Knock, you don't have Jinzo, you don't have IO. Thank goodness no IO. No Dust Tornado either. A lot of good cards in PSV that are not here. I think we're just having complete connection issues because the monsters should be gone, but we see the monsters here. TB1 is in the format, TB2 is not. So you do have Mechanical Chaser, you don't have Morphing Jar. What? No, what? Oh, Solemn. Solemn got hit. Okay, I missed the Solemn. Okay. So, yeah. Cyber Jar will trigger here. Banishing 5. And it looks like, that might be the end of the game. That might be the end of the game. That is, yeah, that is rough. I mean, Didlad does not use up Waboku, so Waboku could get used up here. Um, but that's kind of brutal. Kind of brutal. Um, yeah, I think Waboku has to be used here because, well, we'll see what Danny does. But Danny's gonna bring out Mech Chaser, Tomato, and Witch in attack. So it's not quite the end of the game, but I would say probably Moth set. Yeah, you could do Moth and attack. If you knew there wasn't a Waboku set, then you could basically force out game here by attacking into the Tomato with the Mechanical Chaser, just crashing with Tomato multiple times. Actually, that would still probably be game because Deadlad has 2 Tomatoes in grave, whereas Danny only has 1. So they attack in. Oh, they attack with the Tomato first. Yeah, that works too. So yeah, Tomato's gone. You get out like a Sanguine or Witch, and then you will Boku on this. Probably. You could take this as well, and then search out something, and then we'll Boku after that. So that way you have a monster you want to use, but Reborn should hopefully be good enough to get you what you need. But it's not looking good. It's not looking good. Change of Heart is gone, so you need like a Raigeki or a Dark Hole. Yeah, it's going to be rough. I like another thing about Treasure format is it's kind of like a series of puzzles with like, okay, I know Wall of Illusion, very interesting here. So yeah, you do attack in just to bait out the Waboku, right? But yeah, so now the Witch will go back to hand. I feel like honestly, you want to attack in with the Mechanical Chaser there because you want Witch on field in case Raigeki comes down, right? So then you at least get a search to then do stuff with. So I think that was a bit of a misplay on Danny's part, but I don't think it really matters here that much. But yeah, Witch is back in hand. Which should be back in hand at least. It should be at least. I don't know. Yes, Witch is returned to the hand. Yes, because it attacked into wall. Yeah. Yep. As Soul says, it should go to hand as well. Why are they not? No, it is returned to hand. It attacked in. This actually could matter. I don't know why they said never mind. It is in hand. Like, it attacked in, so it goes to hand. Like, yeah. Yeah, well, Boku prevented any damage, but it did attack in. So, like, yeah. I guess you know about Trap Hole, so you want to add back the monster that, you know, if they Trap Hole it, it's not as good, but, yeah. Okay, what's Diddley going to do here? Kind of tough spot, but switching the wall to defense is something at least. The issue is that Magician of Faith can get back Change of Heart, get back Dark Hole. Probably just Change of Heart is enough though. If you don't have a way to stop that, I mean, Reborn. You do Reborn on like Gumo, just leave. No, that doesn't do anything. Oh, Dark Hole there, pretty good. Yeah, it's pretty good. And again, that's sort of why you leave Witch on field, in my opinion, because now you can get a search. So, yeah. Oh, I could write Danny Matthew. That's your bro. Oh, happy that your bro's doing well. But yeah, Reborn on Gumo. So it might not be going too well for much longer, but I do think it's still going very well here. Danny has, Witch in hand, so they can get a search if they need it. If they're playing multiple cannons, that could be something good as well, but they're going to call Tails. Will this go through? It will indeed go through. Okay, they got it. They got the flip. Tails never fails. To quote some other duelists here. But yeah, looks like Didlet's also going to set 2 pass back. So I think we know that is Trap Hole and maybe Fisher, I think as well. But Heavy Storm coming down. And, Trap Hole and Heavy. Okay. Yeah, so we know 2 Fishers in hand. Danny's going to set 1, set another. Pass back. It is still anyone's game. It's kind of wild to say it, but it is still anyone's game. Pot of Greed, especially, it makes it anyone's game here. Drawing 2. What will Didled be able to do? Okay, looks like they're going to attack in to the set monster. Will that go through or will it not? They do have to flip first. Okay, Tails coming through again. Will it be Tails? 50-50 odds. It is indeed Tails. They managed to succeed that again. Hitting a Bug, and Bug will pop the Gumo. Bit of a rough spot to be in. They do have another monster to set, so they're going to set 2, set 3, pass back. Now the thing is, they've gone through so many spell traps that now they should be getting a fair amount of monsters. So they will likely be able to have that at least. To sort of just put pressure on Danny here. But the Witch in Danny's hand means that they will also have a constant stream of monsters. Although, if we look at what they have left, so they don't have too many searchers left, but like they will still have enough monsters to maybe do something here. So, it does make things a bit tricky. Let's see here. They're setting 1. Passing back. Okay. Also, the note, Didled is first to deck out in the current state of things, but Danny is getting a search off the Witch, if that's what the Witch is there. So that will also complicate things. If Danny has another Cannon Soldier as well, then that will be something to consider. Witch getting flipped up here. Mirror Force is gone. So hitting into a Moth. Moth could get back Reborn again. That's something pretty good. Moth could get back Pot. Moth could get back a lot of good things. Okay, looks like they're going to get back the Reborn. I think that makes sense. Main 2. Has Danny used up Mirror Force? Mirror Force has been used up by Danny as well. So both players have used up Mirror Force. MST on the back row in case Waboku. Looks like it's a Robin Goblin. Oh boy. Yeah, we saw that in one of the previous games here. Painful choice. Ooh. Yeah. It is definitely a little bit messy, Papa Perez, but it is kind of something that, like, when you get used to it, I think that there is kind of a flow to it and a flow to the games because, like, at the end of the day, in this format, there are only, like, a certain amount of cards that are actually good enough to see play. And a lot of this format is navigating, like, what you have versus what your opponent has and, like, dictating the flow of what you get. There are ways to interrupt the flow with things like hand rips, and that's something that makes it a bit unique from Critter. But yeah, Cannon Soldier is, Cannon Soldier is like, it's something that was around back in the day, but it's something that is a lot better, or is appreciated a bit more now, I think, because instead of just being used in FTKs, it's just a good card to have because basically you use it as a finisher. So, like, since it's so easily searchable off Sangam, Witch, Tomato, etc., I just use it to close out games when they're low life. Like right now, Didled's at 1350. If Danny had Cannon Soldier in rotation, they could just summon out the Cannon Soldier, tribute their board, and win the game if Didled did not have a trap hole. So, you know, it's a card that's gotten better over time, especially as Solemn has become more popular in both this format and in Critter format. So it is something that, like, has been on the rise for a while. But it's definitely not a new phenomenon, I will say. It's just something that I think is a lot more appreciated now. Exactly, as well. With Change of Heart, Snatch Shield, it's just very, very good. Because you take your opponent's thing and then you tribute it, especially if it's like a tomato. That's very, very good for you. So it looks like the Force will be given there. But yeah, I will say, as Soul says, the changes also can be very subtle. And Banisher is another card that has been really on the rise. Like, Banisher is a card that, like, I think historically was not played as much. But now it's, like, very, very good. Because it is just, it shuts down a lot of what is going on in Treasure format. And it's just a 2K body, which is a bit hard to deal with a lot of the time. So it can be very, very good. It does have its flaws. It's not a perfect card by any means. But as we saw in some of the games so far, it just if it sits there and you can't deal with it, like it is just such a powerhouse. Diddley going for heads now, mixing up the tails play, and it does need work, so they're able to get in there without paying half their life, tacking over that witch. Danny gets a search here. What will they search? They're going to go for... What are they going to go for? Bit tricky. Bit tricky. If there's a Cannon Soldier in deck, do you search that? That's a good question. If there's Sangan left, do you search that? I might search the Sangan, honestly. Looks like they searched out a Moth, I think. But yeah, Spear Cretin is a card that people have experimented with. It actually is a very interesting one. The issue with it is that it helps your opponent out too, because they get back a card and they will have the sort of initiative to play it first. So it's tricky because, you know, they attack your Spear Cretin, you get back powerful flip, but then they get back just like man your bug and then pop your flip, and then your opponent got more value out of it than you did. But Spear Cretin is something that, you know, can work in some decks, especially Mill, because Cyberjar is a card that's around. So you use like triple Spear Cretin, get back the Cyberjar repeatedly, and then you can do stuff with that. But yeah, it looks like Fisher getting sent back into the deck off that Forceful. Yeah, that's what really, you know, makes a difference there. I'm pretty sure if they've got no cards in grave, then Spear can, you know, just get back your own thing. So that can be nice. But yeah, it does make it a bit awkward just using sort of like this style of deck. If you're playing a dedicated like flip deck, like with the Cyberjars and things like that, then it can be very good. It can be good in burn as well. Getting back things like Germ, right? That can be nice. But it is kind of an iffy one for sure. But yeah, burn, very good. Yeah, it is Cretan's home there. You get back Germs, you get back Momongas, you get back a lot of things. It plays around your chain energies. Very, very good stuff. I like burn a lot in this format. I think it's very good. I've won a tournament with burn, in fact. Yeah, so it is a good deck in this format, good strategy. We didn't see any burn in this locals, but I think it is a very good strategy that shouldn't be slept on. So Moth getting a search out here, and that's just going to be the end of the game because Moth search like, you know, Change of Heart, and that's it. Yeah, you can search out Dark Hole as well. Yeah, and then Wish comes down, but yeah, very, very good stuff there. And yeah, Burn, I can try and pull up my Burn deck. Let me just show the Burn deck. I will have to leave after this, even though the final game is going on, but it is what Burn looks like. So you get Chain Energies, you get Germs, you got the Cretans get back Germs or Cyberjars, you got Mangas to boost up your life points, so that way you don't have to pay as much. So yeah, it's a very good deck in this format. I think this is one of the better decks, but obviously, you know, it's a bit degenerate. People don't necessarily like to play Burn decks, but it is still pretty fun. So I like it. Another thing you can play is Clown Control. I think Clown Control is kind of slept on. It's not like the best deck in the world, but it is somewhat decent in this format. Yeah, so I like this one too. But those are definitely very cool. The games took a little bit longer than I expected, so I'm probably gonna have to. Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to head out now. Unfortunately, before the last game wraps up. So yeah. So I'm gonna have to end the stream early, but I could maybe do a video on that final match just to fill that out. And I will be releasing a cat format guide right when I end stream. So look for that. Chain Energy, definitely evil. Definitely a bit evil here. But it's the fun type of evil, you know. But yeah, this definitely took longer than I expected. I know that games can take long, but definitely we had some longer than normal ones. But I mean, that happened in this format. It is a bit of a slow one sometimes. But yeah, I will have to leave now, unfortunately. And yeah, I hope you all enjoyed. I will just do a bit of an analysis video for the replay when that's done of the finals. So definitely send that into me, either Jim Bob or Danny. And yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed. And hopefully you all enjoy the cat guide that I'm going to be releasing after the stream ends. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. And yeah, hope you all have a good day. Peace.